now, right 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 now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always happens, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show. We bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and in today's episode, we are going to be talking about why a major breakout may be just 3.5 hours away on the Bitcoin market. You see, Bitcoin has been under untold amount of strain over the last 2 months, beginning with the SEC cracking down on Binance USD's stablecoin. And then over the course of the next several months, we saw all kinds of bearish events coming into play on Bitcoin. We saw a 0.1% drop on the CPI data, which was not very large. And many people were concerned that because we had such a small CPI drop, the Bitcoin would drop. And that's what happened last May, around May the 10th. Right before that, on May the 3rd, we saw the CME Fed Watch predicted and was accurate that another 25 basis point rate hike would send the effective federal funds rate to 5.15%. That led to a drop in Bitcoin. Then, of course, the nuclear war began last Monday and Tuesday, about a week ago now, where the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, came out hard against Changpeng Zhao and his company Binance and Binance US. And then we also saw the very next day on Tuesday, again, that was about a week ago, the SEC filed charges against Coinbase, this time not against CEO Brian Armstrong, just against the company. And so there is a huge onslaught coming against crypto right now. And we finally got some good news yesterday. CPI dropped by 0.9%. I've kind of poured some water on that fire, though, because those major drops are likely over within just the next few months. So we're not going to be able to rely on CPI drops to send Bitcoin to the upside. But there is one event that's happening today that very well may and probably will send Bitcoin through quite a large rally, and it has everything to do with yesterday's CPI data release. As you know, CPI came down by 0.9% yesterday. As such, the effective federal funds rate is almost certainly going to plateau today. As you guys know, we have been undergoing the largest, most aggressive, fastest rate hiking season that the Federal Reserve has embarked on in over 40 years. This has had huge implication on the economy, from everything from mortgages to credit card debt to student loan debt to personal debt to business debt to the state of liquidity in the United States market as a whole. And this has led the debt market into a position where the whole economy is kind of stuck. It's kind of frozen. And so now the question is, are we going to see a Fed rate pause today from Jerome Powell's Federal Reserve? I believe at this point, based on the massive CPI drop that we saw yesterday, that we will almost certainly see that pause happening today at 5.15%, which means that we will not be seeing a rate hike for the first time in over 15 months. And when that occurs, likely Bitcoin will go through at least a $500 to $1,000 rally. If it doesn't, then that definitely speaks to the strength of the bears right now in this market because of all of that bearish news. We're going to break down all of that and more in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto Live. We're going to talk about where we're going next and why. But first, let's go ahead and read some chat and thank all of our lovely, lovely viewers. If you have not already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification bell so you won't miss a single stream. Thank you guys so very much. Wisely T said, morning, you planning to be live during the Fed meeting today? I really wish I could. Unfortunately, I have another commitment at that time. I'm not going to be able to be live, but I will. Well, you know, I was about to say that I'd try and record a short phone video or something, but funny story, I was at the gym this morning and I was doing shoulder press. I had 30 pounds on each side. And I went and I did that stupid thing that you can do in the gym sometimes where I kind of drop the weight the last foot instead of, bending over and, activating my abs or something, working them out. I kind of just let the weights drop. And unfortunately, the left weight, the left 30-pound dumbbell fell. And I kind of calculated in my mind, if I drop it here, it won't land on my phone, right? Dropped it there. What I didn't take into account is that dumbbells, when they're when they're rubberized on the outside and the floor is rubberized, they bounce. And so I watched in abject horror as this 30-pound dumbbell landed 2 inches from my phone and then bounced forward and landed right on my phone and cracked it. It's a $1,000 Google Pixel 6 that I got about a year and a half ago. I love that phone, and it is so very much destroyed that it's literally bent. Like, it's not just the screen. It's the screen, it's the glass back of the phone, and the thing's like bent a little bit. It's just, funnily enough, it still took a call because they were watching our kids down there at the gym because they have a kids care thing. And they called us, and my wife picked up the phone, answered it. I don't know how. Somehow she was able to answer the phone, even though the thing's just completely destroyed. So we knew it was time to go get our kids. But yeah, so my phone's destroyed. So I take that back. I won't be able to do a phone video today because I got to go buy a new phone. So, but luckily we are living in a state of financial sovereignty. So if I need to go and spend new money on a new phone, I'm able to do that. And if you saw my short from about 6 months ago, I switched on over to Apple anyway. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take this opportunity to get an iPhone. Tell me what kind of iPhone I ought to get. All right, let's read some more chat. Rocket Metal News said, good morning, all. Queen said, Bedrock present. Dan Nolan said, right now, right now, right now, right now. Boom. Love to see it. Alex Nibo said, good morning. Colin McDonald said, hi, Mike. Philly Skills 1428 said, morning, Jeb. It is my birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. FS said, much love for you, Jeb. Keep up all the amazing work going. Thank you so much. Smile at the Rising Sun said, let's go. That's a cool name. It's a cool name. Everybody's saying good morning. I'm having a real good feeling today. Good deal. Love it. Crypto not running until the SEC FUD is resolved. I think that is going to be a difficult. I think that is going to be a difficulty that Bitcoin's going to have to face. Absolutely. I think it's a pretty big one. Pew Pew Poom 2 said pause is baked in. Possibly. I'm not so sure that it is. I think that a lot of people are wondering. I don't think it's I don't think that it's baked in just because we haven't seen a major rally on the price. I think we will when that happens. Someone said Jeb is jacked, and somebody else said Jeb is not jacked, bro. Lol. Yeah, I'm not jacked, but I'm trying to be consistent and be disciplined. Let's see. No, don't do it. Don't get an iPhone, lol. We're gonna open up that can of worms. The Android versus Apple debate. Should have got an iPhone. Yeah, I don't think an OtterBox would have protected. I mean, it was a 30-pound dumbbell. I mean, come on, that's kind of that. I wouldn't expect a phone to be able to take that. Apparently, I couldn't take it. That's why I dropped it. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump on to CoinMarketCap and get started, guys. Bitcoin right now trading at $26,009, above the 26K mark. Love to see it. It is down 2.81% over the last 7 days, up 4.8% over the last 90 days. It's been moving relatively little today, only up by about 0.3%. Ethereum is currently sitting at 1741. It's down 6.41% over the last 7 days, down up about 0.4% over the last 24 hours. So we're having a little bit of a bounce today, I think, because of what I believe Pew Pew Poom 2 was saying, that there is likely a Fed rate pause somewhat baked in, because if you go over to CMEgroup.com on the CME FedWatch tool, you can see that the next FOMC meeting is in about 3.5 hours. It takes place at 2 p.m. The press conference is at 2:30. We'll have the minutes, not the minutes, the what's the word I'm looking for? Not the minutes. The minutes come out later. The statement, the Fed statement, come out at 2, and then the actual press conference will be at 2:30, where Jerome Powell will come out and make the announcement on, talk about the decision. So CME FedWatch tool is giving us a 95.4% likelihood that we're going to see a pause, a 4.6% likelihood that we're going to see a hike. There has been quite a lot of debate over the last month whether or not this was going to be the season of pausing. At this point, with the massive headline inflation drop that we saw from 4.9 all the way down to 4%, we have more than likely moved into a state where we are going to see a Fed rate pause. When that rate pause occurs, that is going to have a huge impact on the market. And so the question really comes down today is whether or not that impact is baked in. Because I think we can all but assume at this point that the Fed rate pause will occur. And I think that we can all but assume that it will have a positive impact on the Bitcoin market. But then if we do assume, and I think it would be safe to assume, that a Fed rate pause would have a positive impact on the market, we must ask ourselves the question, is the pause already baked in and it did nothing, or is it not baked in and it's about to do something? And part of the reason that we have to frame the question that way is because if you look at the stock market, I think the stock market is acting in a way as if the stock market has baked in a Fed rate pause. You see, many of the companies in the S&P 500, the Fortune 500, Fortune 100, whatever stock index mutual fund you want to talk about, many of them rely heavily on interest because, like it or not, America runs on debt. It doesn't run on Duncan. It runs on another D word. It runs on debt. America runs on debt, right? And when you're taking out debt, the interest rate matters. If you're financially sovereign and you've got little to no debt, then you don't really have to worry about it. That's not the state that most businesses compete in. If you're a business, you're almost certainly going to take on debt or angel investment or some kind of debt to finance your growth. I mean, a mortgage is a type of debt. Leverage trading is a type of debt. Oftentimes, if you're shorting a market, you've got to take debt from somebody because you probably didn't have the asset to begin with to sell and then cover later. Debt is a huge facet of the way our economy works. The debt market is one of the largest drivers of our economy. And so when the debt market seemingly is going to get more dovish, that being because we're not going to see a rate hike. So we've kind of pushed off this idea that it's going to get worse. And now we can start thinking, okay, it's not going to get worse. It's just not going to get better yet. That's a step in the right direction. That's the needle being over here. Now it's right in the middle. It hasn't started moving in the right direction yet, though. The question then becomes, when will the rate drops be? That's the question on everybody's mind. Right now, everyone in the stock market who's investing in the stock market, plenty of the people investing in the stock market realize there's a Fed rate pause coming, and at least in the short term, that is a bullish thing for the market, as hiking interest rates are a bearish phenomenon. Whenever you see interest rates move up, that typically is a bearish factor for the market. And if you want to see that in action, I can show you right now. Ever since the effective federal funds rates have been hiking, we've been seeing a major drop. Excuse me, just deleted that. We've been seeing a major drop on U.S. stocks. Right now, with us likely moving into a season of plateau, people are starting to realize, wait a second, one of the biggest, most important bearish factors that the stock market was contending with is over. Notice, ever since the last meeting, the stock market, the SPY, has just been absolutely going on a tear. It's up 7.27% in 37 days. You know, I think it was TD Ameritrade. It might have been Wells Fargo. I forget who it was, but some major company in the financial world predicted that we're going to see a decade of, on average, 3 to 5% returns in the stock market, when many people were used to 6 to 8%, 7 to 9%, sometimes 8 to 10% in a year just on the SPY. The fact that we've seen what may amount to 2 years of average gain this decade in a month and a half just goes to show you how important this Fed rate pause is to the bulls over in the stock market. So, of course, to answer one of our questions, is this an extremely bullish event? Absolutely. It's absolutely a bullish event for the stock market. And with Bitcoin being highly positively correlated to the SPY, and I can show you that really quickly. With Bitcoin being exceptionally positively correlated to the SPY throughout history, not just in the last couple of months, throughout history, whenever the SPY is in a major drop, so is Bitcoin. I mean, even the last 3 major drops on the SPY have corresponded with 3 of the largest drops in Bitcoin. The drop here for the pandemic, and the drop right here, and also the drop back here. All of these drops all coincide and correspond with huge drops on Bitcoin. The stock market is extremely heavily correlated to Bitcoin. And so you kind of have to ask yourself the question, if the stock market is extremely highly correlated to Bitcoin, why then have they decoupled? Because I think it's pretty difficult to argue that they have not decoupled. They most certainly have. The stock market's been on a tear for the last month, and Bitcoin, not really. Why is that? Well, especially in the last week and change, the stock market's been rallying aggressively. You can see just the almost parabolic nature of this run on the line chart for the SPY. We've not seen the same thing happen on Bitcoin. Why is that? Well, many people in the cryptocurrency space realize that a pause is likely coming, but they also realize that more regulatory attacks are likely coming. They also realize that while a pause is likely coming, they also realize that the inflation is eventually going to get under control, and the massive inflationary drops that we've witnessed have been one of the big drivers, of the bullishness on Bitcoin. So if inflation comes down to where it needs to be in his target, some of the incentive for getting into Bitcoin disappears, because many people invest in Bitcoin under this idea that it is a hedge against inflation. And I think that that is a fine idea. Bitcoin is a solid hedge against inflation, I think, if you hold it for 5 to 10 years. It's got a great track record in that boat. The tricky thing is, when inflation is getting under control, then some of the some of the reason for being for Bitcoin is removed for certain investors. And those investors are no longer as inclined to get into the Bitcoin market because they think, well, inflation's coming down, the dollar's stronger, Dixie's going up, it's being very strong against a basket of other currencies. Other currencies are not faring as well as it. The best places to be right now is in the dollar. And by the way, just so you know, another reason why Bitcoin's struggling is because investors that are in traditional finance, instead of going and putting money into Bitcoin and risking losing 20% on a drop because the SEC attacked them, they can just go and get 5.3% in a 6-month United States Treasury. Most investors that are the big leagues, they're dealing with $100 million, $1 million, $500,000, $25 million, whatever it is that they're investing. They would rather go and get a guaranteed, essentially risk-free 5.3% in a U.S. Treasury than put money into Bitcoin. Same thing with the stock market. Same thing with the real estate market. The high treasury returns are one of the things that are weighing down the rest of the markets, because if you can go and get a guaranteed 5.3%, guaranteed by the full faith and confidence of the United States government, which you can say all you want about, the United States is in way too much debt, and that is absolutely true. The U.S. has never defaulted on a treasury, so they are considered risk-free. There's nothing risk-free. It technically does carry some risk, but they are considered the baseline riskless asset. They're the least risky thing you can possibly buy. So when people can go and get a guaranteed 5.3% return, and they're not even sure if they can get that in the stock market this decade, they're definitely not sure if they can get it in Bitcoin because of its track record. It hadn't even gone up to half of the way to all-time high. Then you're going to have difficulty finding the bullishness come in. So all of this to kind of wrap into one narrative, and that is we're seeing a lot of bullishness coming from the effective federal funds rate pause today. I agree with CME Group's prediction that there's a 95% likelihood of a Fed rate pause at this point, considering yesterday's CPI data. When that happens, we are going to see whether or not Bitcoin moves or not. If Bitcoin doesn't move, then what this may end up being is almost like if you have a balloon. Let's say you have a balloon, it's floating around. You know, it's full of air, not of helium. This Fed rate pause might be just strong enough, because the balloon's fallen to the ground, might be just strong enough to boom, push Bitcoin back into the air and keep it aloft. But because the air is full, because the balloon's full of air and not helium, the thing's going to actually just fall down to the ground on its own. That might be a little bit where Bitcoin is. Is Bitcoin a hot air balloon, or is it a balloon with air in it that's going to fall to the ground? Maybe slowly, but all on its own. My point is the Fed rate pause's bullishness necessary just to stop Bitcoin from falling through that floor of support that we've talked about, around $25,000 to $25,500? Again, remember, we've talked about it in plenty of videos. I'm going to talk about it again in today's Climate of Crypto episode. That'll be coming up in 41 minutes, so stay tuned for that. That goes up at 11 o'clock. We've got the 200 daily EMA, the 200 weekly EMA. We've got $25,236. We've got an uptrending level of support. I think we've actually got a Fibonacci level there. I haven't looked at that recently. We've also got the fact that 25K is a big even. It's a quarter of the way to all-time high. It's half the way to 50,000. There's plenty of psychological and technical barriers right there at the $25,000 mark. And so, is it the case that the only reason Bitcoin has not already fallen through that floor is because of the bullish CPI data that we saw yesterday, and because the the Federal Reserve rate pause is already priced in? Is it the case that the rate hike is priced in, and that's the only reason Bitcoin hasn't fallen through the floor yet? That's my concern with the CPI. Because you see, Bitcoin was already in a downtrend yesterday. Excuse me, not so much yesterday, but it was in a general downtrend since about a week and a half ago. Since the end of May, Bitcoin's been in a general downtrend from 28.5 all the way down to where it was on Monday, around 25.9. Then, when the CPI data came out yesterday, Bitcoin didn't really do a whole lot. In fact, when it came out, Bitcoin dropped. I think the reason for that is because people were starting to price in, okay, we might see a CPI drop and it could be bullish for the market. And then they realized in the first couple of minutes, ooh, we've got this big red candlestick after CPI dropped about 5 minutes later after everybody woke up and realized the news. I think everybody realized, oh, wait a second. Maybe this isn't the saving grace that we needed. Maybe this isn't the savior that the Bitcoin market needed. The CPI is not enough to combat all the FUD coming from the Securities and Exchange Commission. Guys, that is the biggest FUD story that Bitcoin may have ever experienced. Just so you know, that is a huge, huge attack on crypto. China banning Bitcoin doesn't hold a candle to this. FTX going bankrupt does not hold a candle to that story. Just so you know. And I'm not trying to spread FUD. I'm just letting you know that you think FTX is bad. When you've got the United States trying to come against crypto and basically shut down 60 or 70% of the industry, we've never gone through anything like this. So the amount of FUD in the market right now is at an all-time high. I'm not trying to spread FUD because I believe Bitcoin's going to be just fine. I think a lot of cryptocurrency is in trouble in some ways, but I think Bitcoin is going to be just fine because they can't make a case against Bitcoin. You can't make a case against Bitcoin being a security. What are you going to do? Who are you going to subpoena? Who are you going to bring to court? Who are you going to bring to trial? By the way, Bitcoin was designed that it doesn't need all of this layer 2, and by layer 2, I mean all this outside infrastructure to operate. You can operate a Bitcoin node yourself. You can mine Bitcoin yourself. You can do all of those things yourself. You can transact in Bitcoin yourself. You can cash it in and out of fiat yourself just by finding some guy that wants to do that individually. You can do it under the radar without the rest of the cryptocurrency industry for that. Bitcoin's going to be all right, even if it goes underground for a time. The rest of crypto gets sticky when the development of the blockchain is being funded by people that are single points of failure. There are plenty of different projects out there that are mostly or exclusively funded by one person. That one person gets too much pressure and says, "Nah, I'm gonna turn the spigot off." That project dies, right? And so that's not necessarily a bad thing because that's how companies work. You know, you have the founder and CEO. The founder and CEO decides, "I'm gonna go do something else." Then the company kind of shuts down. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not knocking an altcoin project that's in that boat. But what I am saying is that is a single point of failure, which is kind of the problem with most secure fintech and why Bitcoin is so powerful. There's no single point of failure on cryptocurrency. There's no development team that you can just knock out and throw them all in jail and then the thing dies. You can't do that with Bitcoin. The rest of crypto, people realize and they know that there are Achilles heels all over the place in the rest of the altcoin market, including in Ethereum. Ethereum's a little bit stronger, it's bigger, and it is more independent than most, but ultimately, it is still in that boat with a lot of the other cryptocurrencies. I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but I do want you guys to know that there are vulnerabilities with other cryptocurrencies, and we're going to have to see how much the SEC and how much the United States federal government exploits those. So when we saw the CPI data come out, I think everybody was hoping, oh, this will be our saving grace. Good. We'll go to the upside. We'll have a major rally. And then when we didn't immediately see a major rally because the rally had already been kind of priced in over the last 12 hours before that, and we did see the 0.9% drop, I think a lot of people sold off. There is a small concern in my mind that we may see the same thing today. We may be seeing this little bit of an uptick because of the hype around the EFFR, and then the EFFR is going to come out at 12. I have this vertical line drawn right here. Excuse me, not 12. I'm so sorry, at 2. So 1,400 hours. When we get to that point, people might say, oh man, that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough, and Bitcoin could drop. If Bitcoin does drop as a result of this effective federal funds rate pause, let's say the effective federal funds rate does pause, and from there, Bitcoin does drop, and it's not priced in, and it does end up dropping. That is bad news for $25,500, $25,236. That means those levels are coming under heavy assault because two of the most bullish things that could happen to Bitcoin, other than some, white swan event like, a country adopting Bitcoin or some billionaire getting into it, whatever, that would likely put the death nail in that zone of support around 24.1 to 25.236. It means that we would almost certainly have to go further to the downside. And it makes sense. It truly does. And it's not necessarily the end of the world. It makes sense that Bitcoin would need to shed some value as a result of the SEC attacking Bitcoin and crypto. We saw the SEC attacks start here. Bitcoin was already at these levels. Bitcoin already earned these levels on its own without that bearish news. It would not surprise me at all if Bitcoin needed to trade 10% lower for a time when the only thing that's really changed is the Fed rate pause, which we kind of were hoping and assuming would happen anyway after CPI data release. And of course, CPI. It would make sense if Bitcoin needed to drop a couple $1,000s. So there's a huge decision point coming on Bitcoin. Is the market going to say, okay, a Fed rate pause is enough for us to at least temporarily kind of not think about the SEC, and we're going to buy in and we're going to let the market rally? Or is the overwhelming reality of the SEC coming out against the three largest names in cryptocurrency, CZ himself, Changpeng Zhao, Binance, and Coinbase, is that such an overwhelming, overarching FUD story that even a Federal Reserve rate pause is not enough, and the market still needs a month or two to digest this new reality and realize, okay, it's going to be okay. We just have to figure out what's going to happen. We have to figure out what the next steps are moving forward. We have to kind of get some kind of certainty, because right now uncertainty is the thing we're dealing with. There's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Uncertainty is the biggest one in this case. We have to come to terms with and understand how exactly is Bitcoin going to fare in this new environment with the SEC coming out against cryptocurrencies. And I think it's going to take time, like I said, for the market to digest that and really understand, okay, this is the way I'm going to process this. This is not the end of the world. This is not the end of crypto. I need to change my strategy. Maybe I need to be more into Bitcoin and Ethereum because they're the ones that are not under fire right now. If you're thinking, oh, Jeb, you're just a Bitcoin and ETH maxi. I'm not. I'm just reading the data. If you look at the last 7 days, all of these altcoins that were listed, now other than Polkadot, pretty much all of them were, and Litecoin, Solana was listed, Matic was listed, I think Tron was listed, ADA was listed as a security, Chainlink was, a few others were, Filecoin down here was, let's see, there's a few others in here that were listed. All of these coins, all of these altcoins that were listed, and even a lot of them that weren't, because people are worried that they're going to become securities, have dropped 10 to 15%, if not over 20% in the last 7 days. Now they've rallied, if you look over, they've rallied a little bit in the last 24 hours or so, but they're all down 15 to 20%. It's possible that that is a fair assessment of the cryptocurrency market, and it's possible that that's just what Bitcoin's going to have to deal with for right now. So, huge Bitcoin breakout incoming. That is not necessarily a bullish thing. However, I think it more than likely is. We've talked a lot about the contingent, the contrarian idea that it will drop. I personally am of the opinion that Bitcoin is going to rally as a result of the effective federal funds rate hike, and I'm also of the personal opinion that it is not baked in fully, and the reason for that is because we only really had this much confidence that the effective federal funds rate was going to be a pause starting yesterday because of the CPI data. A lot of people thought that it would happen. I was skeptical because I thought CPI would be a smaller drop. The only reason CPI dropped that much is because of gasoline. There's 1 point of failure in that data. 1 point of failure. Core inflation, all items less food and energy, and food barely dropped at all. Those drops, if energy had to stay the same, would have led CPI dropping 0.1%. Energy, the only thing in there that dropped that much to cause a major drop like that was gasoline. And that's only because 11 months ago's data is $5 a gallon. Right now it's $3.67. You can look at the you can go look at the stream yesterday, and you can also watch today's Climate of Crypto video. They'll be going up in about half an hour to see more information on that. The point is, I think many people are thinking, wow, wait a second, we are going to see a Fed rate hike. Excuse me, a Fed rate pause. And so I'm not sure that that's been baked in just yet. And the reason I'm not sure that's been baked in just yet is because we have seen the confirmation, if you will, the near certainty of that Fed rate pause just coming into being in just the last 26 hours or so ever since that decision. So, is a huge breakout incoming? I think so. I would be a little bit surprised if it might happen, but I'd be a little bit surprised if Bitcoin just traded sideways through this. So, as always, there are 3 options. Bitcoin can go up, it can go down, or it can go sideways. Duh. My job, your job as a technical analyst, is to ascribe percentage likelihoods to those possibilities. I think that the least likely outcome is that Bitcoin trades sideways. If Bitcoin were to trade sideways, I'll tell you what that means. What that means is that it was priced in, and Bitcoin, the effective federal funds rate pause was just enough to stave off a massive crash on Bitcoin. That's what it means if we trade sideways, because the market will consider a rate pause as an extremely bullish event. So hear me here. If we trade sideways, that means that the bears are stronger right now than the bulls, because the bulls, just in and of themselves, with reinforcements, were just able to hold off the bears. I hope that makes sense. So you got a war, and you got 200,000 men on one side, 180,000 men on the other side. They get an influx of 200,000 men. Now they're even. Without that reinforcement, the 200,000 men theoretically would have won, right? They're bigger. All things being equal, they would have won. So the bulls, in this case, might be the 180,000. They needed that reinforcement just to hold the line. That's what we're talking about if the thing pauses. And Bitcoin pauses at the same time. Bitcoin trades sideways. It means that the reinforcements, the metaphorical reinforcements from CPI data being very bullish and from the effective federal funds rate pause being extremely bullish, was just enough for the bulls to hold the line. It gave them just enough fuel to fight a little longer. The problem with that is that those news stories typically give some bullishness for 3 to 7 days, and then people kind of forget about them, which means that those reinforcements are not actually standing army quality. They're mercenaries that have a 3-month contract, and when that 3-month contract is up and they leave, you're outnumbered again. And the bears will end up probably dropping the market through the floor about a week or 2 from now. That's if we trade sideways. I'd give that a 20 to 25% likelihood. Dropping, that'd be a big breakout. obviously if I'm giving it a 25%, 20 to 25% likelihood we're going to trade sideways, then 75 to 80% of my opinion is that we're going to have a breakout. And if we have a breakout, I think it's going to be a big one. So that's where the title comes from, just so you know. As far as the drop is concerned, I would give that about a 20 to 25% likelihood as well. The reason I give it such a high likelihood is because of the way that the market responded to the CPI data yesterday. Because the market responded to CPI data yesterday with a drop, it would stand to reason that Bitcoin very well may respond to CPI to the effective federal funds rate pause today with a drop as well. And if Bitcoin does go through that drop and it doesn't have bullish news waiting to come out tomorrow, like we did yesterday, then that drop might be a lot larger. I don't think that's the most likely option, but I think it's tied with trading sideways at 20 to 25%. Let me break down what I mean by that. Yesterday, CPI came out. Extremely bullish story. You look at the historicity every single time this year. There's been 5 times so far before yesterday that we saw a CPI data drop. CPI data release that contained a drop every single time, except for the last time, a month ago and change, when we saw only a 0.1% drop. All 4 of the first times of the 5, all 4 of the first 5 times, first 4, all 4 of them led to major rallies on Bitcoin of over 5 to 10%. Some of them like 50%. The one in March, 0.6% drop. We did not see a rally at all on 0.9%, and we had bullish news coming out the next day, right? The effective federal funds rate pause, more than likely, coming out the next day. So the drop happened despite the fact that it was so bullish, and despite the fact that we had bullish news on the horizon the very next day. So the argument that Bitcoin might drop from the effective federal funds rate pause is that it's not enough to stave off the bears, and we drop again because that's what we did with CPI. And this time we don't have bullish news waiting off on the horizon. We've kind of lost that thing to look forward to. Think about it like this. Have you ever gone on a big fancy trip? You go snowboarding, go to the beach, go to Disney, you go to, where Epcot, whatever it is. You've got somewhere, you're going to New York, whatever the trip is. It's a year out. I went to a Lindsey Sterling concert in Washington, D.C. in 2018. That was something I was really looking forward to for months. How do you feel when you get back from that? You're like, oh man, that was awesome. Now what? Now I'm back to life. Now I don't have something to look forward to. The cool thing about a big, awesome trip is that you get to look forward to it for 6 months. That's why you plan them so far in the future. So you have all this time. Like my wife and I, our family, we love Christmas. So like starting right about now, we just get to look forward to Christmas all year. The first 6 months of the year, we're like, oh crap, Christmas. So much fun. I like cold weather. I like long nights. Perfect. I live in Florida. It's 95 degrees out right now. I look forward to the high being 70, right? Some of you look forward to the high being 70 because that's summer. We look forward to the high being 70 because that's winter. That's how hot it is outside. We look forward to that all year. And then it happens and December 26th comes and you're like, this sucks. This sucks. And that's kind of what I'm saying might happen here at 3 o'clock. Everybody's been looking forward to a Fed rate pause for the last month and a half. And then it happens. And then now what? Now what? Now what do we look forward to? What do we look for? Another CPI drop? Really? You think we're going to see another massive CPI drop bigger than what we've seen? Maybe we drop 0.1, 0.2% next meeting. But the only thing, remember, the only thing triggering that major CPI data drop from 4.9 to 4.0%, the only thing that triggered 80% of that drop, so 0.7 of those 0.9 basis points that we dropped, the only thing that triggered that was the drop in gasoline prices, and the gasoline prices did not drop this month. It's a quirk of data because a 12-month average is May over May's data. The height was in June of last year. We've got 2 more months of that. Then CPI is not going to be this giantly bullish thing. In fact, massively bullish thing. Instead, we might actually see CPI go up by 0.1 or 0.2% for a time as everything else has to work itself out. So after the effective federal funds rate pause happens, the bears would argue, and this is a fair argument, that now what? Now what do we look forward to? We were looking forward to the Fed rate pause. It happened. The only thing at that point to kind of look forward to on those 2 numbers, which have been the biggest drivers of Bitcoin data release-wise, is all year. The only thing we have to look forward to now is a Fed rate drop, a decrease. That could be 6 to 7 months away. So we kind of enter into this desert, and that may end up causing the drop. I'd give that a 20 to 25% likelihood. Now, of course, the rest of that, the 50 to 60% likelihood, is that I think Bitcoin will more than likely rally on this. And the reason for that is because the bullish news story. A Fed rate pause, even though it technically will only have maybe 3 to 7 days of bullish action on it, it will have this kind of lasting effect that people were like, okay, great, we're in a pause rate market. They're probably not going to hike rates again. Normally, they like to get all their rate hiking done at once. The Federal Reserve typically doesn't do a 25 basis point rate hike, then a pause, and a 25 basis point rate hike and a pause. They don't do that. They would just probably go down to 0.1% or something and then do it consistently. But they like the consistency so they're not janking up the economy, because if you pause it once, people think it's paused for good and they hit their ceiling. So if they pause it, it's probably paused for good. This hiking cycle is probably completely over. So many people are going to look at the hiking cycle and say, all right, it's over. We rallied from 0 to 5.15% in 14 months, set a record, fastest rate hiking that we've seen in over 40 years. Glad that's done. Looking forward to it dropping. And I think that will lead to some investment in Bitcoin. Part of the problem is, though, in much of the bullish sentiment, many of the investment dollars that are being put into investment right now are actually going into the stock market. So that will steal Bitcoin's thunder a little bit. But on the flip side, on the bullish side, with this Fed rate pause, that could clear the way to say, all right, we've got an attack from the SEC, but at least we've got a paused rate market. That's a good thing, because eventually we can start looking forward to a drop, and then everybody's going to be hopeful again. And so there is something to look forward to off in the future, but it's like 7 months away. It's not 3 weeks away, which is a little bit harder to connect with. It's easier to connect with, oh man, we're going on a trip in 2 days, rather than, oh man, we're going on a trip in 7 months. Yay. So I do give it a 50 to 60% likelihood that we're going to see a rally on Bitcoin, and it will more than likely be a pretty large one. But that rally will also have to be on the back of a rallying stock market, which is wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and read some chat. Really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. We got a couple of donations. Thank you guys so much. We've got over 500 people watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you haven't already, and make sure to sign up for Lux Algo. We haven't looked at it today, but Lux Algo's got a lot of great signals, and one of the signals that it's talking about is going to be in a video that's coming out in 22 minutes just after the stream. I would highly encourage you to watch it, because that video is going to help you understand where Bitcoin goes next and why Bitcoin's kind of sitting on the edge of a cliff. And if it does go through a major drop, that video is going to help you to understand where it's going to go and how you can make the most of it. Rick4962 donated $50 again. Rick, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your donations. I think that's $250 so far this month. Said, our Heavenly Father, please watch over us. We need you, Lord. We love you, God. We are nothing without you, Lord. Amen. Absolutely, Rick. Love it. Love to see it. Thank you so much for that. RC Moore donated $1.99. So look at the Bitcoin candles last meeting, please. 1 hour. Sure thing. I'd be more than happy to do that. I do believe, if I remember correctly, the meeting was on May the 3rd at 1400 hours. So let's take a look at that. And that would be a good place to go and look. As I said, the meeting was on May the 3rd at 1400 hours. This was when we had the hike. And so we originally saw the drop. Later on, though, we ended up seeing a rally with the 25 basis point rate hike. I think part of the reason that we saw that back then was because people were expecting that there would be a pause next time. So some of the rally that could be coming today may have actually happened over a month ago, where Bitcoin rallied from 28.6 all the way up to nearly $30,000. You can see here this vertical line represents the Fed rate decision at 1400 hours. It was a hike, but then everybody started getting excited when just a little while later at 2:30, we saw Jerome Powell come out and tease a Fed rate pause next meeting based on data that would still be coming in. That data has now come in. It's the CPI. That's one of the main things he was looking at. A couple hours later, everybody started printing that, and the market rallied in response to this idea of a Fed rate pause. So I'm not sure if that's what you were getting at, but one of the things to keep in mind with those data, with those candles during that release, that EFFR release, was the fact that we did see a rally from it, even though it was a 25 basis point rate hike, which is typically a little bit out of character. And I think part of the reason for that was because during the press conference, we actually live streamed the press conference, Jerome Powell stated that based on incoming data, we very well may see a pause next time. And so RC Moore, that is a very good point. All right. Appreciate all of you guys tuning in. Thank you guys so very much. Gas where I am is 557. That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. All right. Every minute of exercise adds 3 minutes to your life. Get out and stay active, people. Absolutely. Love it. Everybody saying bedrock present. Good morning. Just got out of the gym. Feeling strong. There you go, Freedom Advocate. Love it. Sal Ruiz said, Jeb habla español. Hablo español más o menos. Mi esposa es... Para. Un momento. No, not para. Yeah. I don't know. Puerto Rico. Her native language is Spanish, so I've learned a little bit from her. I am definitely not a fluent speaker. Gladly those wasted land on foot. Ouch. I would honestly would have rathered it landed on my foot than on my phone because I wouldn't have broken a toe. It wasn't heavy enough to do that. But it definitely did just completely destroy my phone. I mean, it's bad. Is my phone in here? Hang on a second. I'm gonna go get. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get my. Oh, never mind. I can't find it. I think I left it in the car because it was shattered. I mean, there's no point in bringing it in. But I'll have to get a picture of it and show you guys. It's so bad. It's so bad. Golly, it's horrible. All right. Good deal. My wife is Puerto Rican. Yes, she is. She is Puerto Rican. Boricua? I don't know what that means. Sorry. Oh, a person from Puerto Rico by birth or descent. Yes. So there you go. If that's what that means, then yeah, she's half Puerto Rican. She was born in Puerto Rico. She's half Puerto Rican, ethnically, I believe would be the term, I suppose. So we joke, since she's Puerto Rican, we joke that our kids are Puerto Ricans because they're 1/4 Puerto Rican. I'm sorry, that might be insensitive. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Really appreciating all of you guys tuning in. Any final questions, go ahead and let me know before we wrap it out. We're going to wrap it out here in a couple of minutes. Queen said, heart climate of crypto. I think you guys will really enjoy today's video. Make sure to watch that. When is the FOMC meeting? It's at 2 p.m. Eastern today. The press conference will be at 2:30. Definitely watch that. I'm going to do my best to watch it. Like I said, I have another commitment at exactly that time. I'll try and watch the replay anyway if I can't see it live. It's very, very important to keep an eye on that. All right. Good deal. Somebody said, dude, I was raised Lutheran and now agnostic. Accept that your view is not held by others and be okay with it. Bashing others' faith does not make you cool. Best people in my life are Christians. Oh, you're talking about the person who's not a Christian. Oh, well, either way, let's not bash anybody for what they believe. Because ultimately, for the Christians in chat, fact of the matter is, we need to be a light. So let's not revile anybody. The word says when Jesus was reviled, he reviled not again. 1 Peter 4:8, I believe that is where that is. Very important. When is alt season? More than likely a year from now, at least. We're going to have to really consider what alt season is going to look like. All right. I'm just going to run a poll, and then we're going to wrap it out. Should I get an Apple or Android? Politics PK said, bro, what about today's Bitcoin levels? That's a great... What the heck? That's a Q&A. That is not what I meant to do. What's a Q&A? Hang on. Let me just do that again. Start a poll. Apple or Android? And I'm going to have to let this run for just a second, then I got to go. All right. I'm going to let it run for like 1 minute, and then I've got to go. Bro, what about today's Bitcoin levels? That's pretty much what we talked about on the stream, so you might have to go back and watch that. All right. We're probably going to have more people saying Android just because that's the way it is. All right, guys. I hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did enjoy today's stream, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and sign up for Club DeFi's Principles of Technical Analysis with the link in the description box down below. Learn everything you need to know about TA. Also, make sure to sign up for Lux Algo using coupon code JEB30, JEBB30 to get 30% off at checkout. Use the annual plan and the coupon code. You can save up to 65% on Lux Algo, over $40 a month. So make sure to sign up now. And also, make sure to stay tuned because the Climate of Crypto episode is coming out today at 11. In about 14 minutes, you're definitely not going to want to miss that. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.